Hey everybody, it's Max. Welcome back to my channel. Uh, so this is my latest piece, which I'm calling Dawn City 2, and I kind of just came up with a name for the city based on the mood I was trying to get with it, which is like that um, twilight feeling, either in the morning or the end of the day, where there's like color in the sky and but it's still dark, and then the windows are kind of lit up in the buildings, and I really like to go for walks at that time of day, so I guess I like to try to capture that mood in my art, and lately I've kind of been focusing on that very specific mood. So this piece was like a combination of trying to capture that feeling with um, wanting to lean more into like really detailed cityscapes that are kind of like futuristic, hodgepodge architecture, maybe like a densely overpopulated future urban city, and kind of definitely riffing on like the cyberpunk genre. And in that genre, there's a lot of like themes of Japanese culture, I guess, and like the book Neuromancer, which apparently is like the book that kind of invented cyberpunk. I don't know if they coined the term cyberpunk in that book, but I've read almost the whole thing. It's kind of a hard read, honestly, but I think the idea with it is like they're kind of just throwing you into the world, and they're not really explaining what everything is, because if you were actually thrown into like 1,000 years into the future into a cyberpunk reality, you would probably not know what they're talking about. There's like a lot of weird lingo and just terminology and things like that that they don't really explain, and you kind of have to figure it out through context. So because of that, it's kind of a challenging read, and it's also kind of, I think, meant to be like um, it's almost like, I don't know. I'm not like a literary critic or like someone who reads that much, but it's like more about the feeling and the mood, I think, than like the plot is kind of the sense I get from it. But anyway, the cities in that, I think the second city he goes to is basically just like the entire east coast of the United States has become one giant urban sprawling city, from like New York City to Washington D.C. or Georgia, Atlanta maybe, or something. So like it's just this giant, dense, endless cityscape, and this is kind of a theme that is used a lot in the cyberpunk genre. These like densely populated cities that are really multicultural and things like that. So if there's any Neuromancer nerds out there, I'm probably butchering this description, but you get the idea. So yeah, I finished this piece, and I tried to record this video on Sunday. Today's Thursday, and I just recorded it like 3 times, and I just hated how I sounded, and I was too like fresh out of this process of painting this, and this piece kind of burnt me out towards the end because there's just so much detail and so much rendering, which I enjoyed, but it's kind of like flaring up my shoulder a bit, and I was having some pain, which always stresses me out. So by the end, I was pretty much ready to be done, and then I posted it, and of course, it's like the lowest performing post I've ever made on Instagram, which is kind of to be expected at this point with the way social media works, but I was just kind of like let down by that, I guess. But I'm trying to not let those kinds of things get to me, because it's pretty much out of my control. So all you can do is really just make the best work you can make, and then maybe it works out on social media or maybe not. But I feel very like good about this piece. I think it's maybe one of my best pieces. So yeah, and then at the beginning of this piece, I kind of had a hiccup with the masking fluid I was using, where I masked out a bunch of areas of the painting that I didn't want there to be color on. And then when I pulled the masking fluid up, it ripped the line work off the paper, and it ripped the paper up, which you can see on the sign on the top left-ish. The paper is a little rough. You can barely probably even tell, but I almost restarted the whole piece because of that. But then I posted on my story and asking people their opinion, and everyone basically just said, you should just keep going with it, which I did, and I'm glad I did that. So thanks to everyone who encouraged me to continue painting this. Yeah, so I also threw some people in this piece, which I don't do typically, but it was fun. I was just leaning into the cyberpunk genre, and so I put like a little sake bar because I like sake, and I would love to go to a little sake bar like this. So a lot of my art is kind of like escapism, where I'm just creating a world that I want to be in. So it's just, I think when I'm drawing it, I kind of feel like I'm in it. So I enjoy that aspect of the drawing process of being just kind of immersed in this world. And then I hope that when people view it, that they feel like that feeling as well. So yeah, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff that's been on my mind with art. I will often like write notes on my phone, which I'm looking at right now, and I'll be like, this is a great idea to talk about in a YouTube video. And then when I try to actually articulate it, it can be kind of tricky. So I'm just going to read what I wrote and then elaborate on that. I wrote this at work today. The heading says, "Am I an actual artist?" And then I go on to say, self-doubt about whether what I'm doing is authentic and true. Am I getting actual joy out of this? Did I only start making art to be a professional illustrator, or because I truly love drawing? So that's kind of me talking about how, like, I haven't been someone who draws my whole life. Like, I went through some phases in my childhood and teenage years where I would draw regularly or like somewhat consistently. And when I was a kid, it was usually like things that I was like really obsessing over, like Pokemon, like, but I would always just copy other drawings. So I was subscribed to Nintendo Power when I was a kid, so I would just copy the drawings out of that, like the different character designs and things like that. So I actually have a folder of some of my drawings from when I was a kid. And then when I was in high school, I started getting more into like art, and I remember I picked up a few of those like Juxtapose magazines or High Fructose or whatever, and I started seeing like, okay, this is a thing that I could get more into and really dive into. And I remember like taking art classes and looking at those magazines and trying to kind of come up with my own style, but I was always just so ADHD about everything. Like, I would get into drawing for like a month and then I would just be obsessed with music or skateboarding or smoking weed or whatever. I was just kind of all over the place. I didn't really have a lot of like discipline and focus until I was in my 20s. And so I guess my whole point with this is that I sometimes feel like I have this sense of imposter syndrome of like, am I an actual artist, like truly? Because when I started drawing in my 20s, I posted on Instagram, and that was in like 2013, 2014. And so much of the process of me learning how to draw at that time was through the process of posting, getting feedback, sharing my art online and stuff like that. So I feel like almost my art and social media are so intertwined. And now that like social media is kind of collapsing for artists, it's really a strange place to be in. And I think a lot of people are struggling with this right now. Because for so long, especially over the past few years, so much of what I did artistically was driven by, to an extent, by how I thought it would perform, how I thought people would perceive it. And now I'm left wondering, like, okay, what do I actually want to make now that if I spend 20 hours on a piece like I did with this, and it gets barely any views or whatever, it's all relative to how many followers you have or whatever, but like, it really isn't worth putting the effort in to get like likes on social media, basically. is like hard for me to admit as that is. It's just not worth it anymore. And like, I guess, and I think a lot of people are in this position, like, I'm left wondering, what is it that I actually want to make, and am I actually enjoying this for like the pure act of making it? And in a way, I think this is good because it's forcing me to really reevaluate like what I want to be making. And I think to an extent, this piece was me being like, I'm going to make a very impressive, detailed cityscape, and everyone's going to love it. I mean, I enjoyed drawing it, but like, I can't deny that that was part of my thought process in drawing this. And would I do it again? Yes. Like, I definitely would make more of these pieces, but I need a break from it for now, I think. So I think that's the end of the video. I'm not done talking yet, though. But here's the final piece, which I will put a link if you want to buy a print of it. Promoting my art online for sure. But yeah, let me like do a quick detour real quick with my commentary here. I also got a GoPro, which I use to film the process of this, and I have been experimenting using it in other ways than just for art, as you can see here. So I threw some footage in here from a bike ride I went on, and I'm just going to continue talking over the bike ride footage. But this is where I live, and I thought it would be cool to just give people a glimpse into some of my personal life. I like to go on bike rides a lot. It's kind of part of my weekly routine. Is like on a Friday night, I'll usually come home from work, eat dinner, and then hop on my bike and ride around till like midnight and just sit on benches, maybe draw, just absorb the outdoors. So yeah, back to what I was saying. I guess I'm trying to figure out now, like, what I want to draw, and for my next piece, I'm already almost done with the next piece that I'm working on right now. I'm kind of leaning more towards like some more surreal, imaginative subject matter that I've done in the past, but I've kind of stayed away from lately. And I think the reason is that I just want to infuse as much fun as possible into my drawing process. And drawing like surreal subject matter is so fun because you can just really get wacky with it, and it doesn't really have to be realistic. And it feels more like I'm kind of building my own little world, like my inner world. And something about that feels really authentic to me, even though there's a part of me that there's some resistance to that. Like, for some reason, like when I do draw the surreal stuff, I feel like people are going to think it's not coming from a genuine place, or that it's like, oh, Max is just trying to be goofy and weird with his art, and it's not like a real, it's almost like I worry that people think it's going to be performative or something, even though like I know that it's something I do enjoy drawing. But I guess we all have those kind of inner voices of just like these imaginary audiences that are critiquing us, and it's really hard to like shut those off. But I'm trying to just not let that creep into my art and just make what I honestly think is the right thing to make in the moment, and just try it and go as far as I can with it. So one of the things I've been talking about with my friend Dalton, my great friend Dalton Doodles, is sorry for that noise. We talk on the phone quite a bit, and I've been friends with him for probably like 8 years at this point, maybe, something like that. But I'll put his Instagram on here. But we spent some time doing an artist residency together and living in these cabins in the woods, which some of the people listening will know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into it too much here, but anyway, we have a lot of these like long, deep art talks. Like he'll call me up or I'll call him up, and we'll just talk for like an hour and a half, and he lives in Texas, so we'll just be walking around in our respective states and talking about art. It's really nice, but we talked last night, and we were talking about how we see these artists online who seem to be so consistent, and they're just kind of in their lane, and they're just making stuff, like consistently putting out really solid work that's very original and true to their own style. They're not hopping around all over the place. They're just it's like, it seems like some of these artists have just really found what's good, what works for them, and they're just enjoying it, and I don't know what the word is, but we were talking about how like we both really want that first for our own art practices, and we kind of came to the conclusion that like it's possible to achieve that, but you kind of have to approach it with maybe a more pragmatic or like functional approach, for lack of a better word. Like it's really easy to just hop around, like I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna try this, and then I'm gonna do this, but if you don't have any criteria for like what you're making, it's really hard to have any like semblance of consistency, even if you're making a lot of stuff. And I personally, because I have so little time to make art, I'm trying to find this like streamlined process where I don't have to think about the materials I'm using or the size of the paper or whether I'm doing digital or traditional or whatever. I just want to like have a piece I'm working on, make the piece, finish it, evaluate what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and then start a new piece and finish it, and then just do that over and over and over. Because I feel like if you have some kind of concrete criteria for what you want your practice to be, then you can let yourself enjoy the process of coming up with ideas and imagining things, and it just takes a lot of the energy of like decision making out of the process. And that's something I really crave, is just like a practice that's comfortable and that I can just lean into and just enjoy, because art should be enjoyable. So for me right now, what that means is working traditionally in watercolor and ink. And some of you will notice that I changed my name to Max Drawbox, and part of that is because I draw lots of boxes and like architectural stuff, but also I actually have a box under my bed which is just full of my drawings. And part of my criteria, I guess, right now is basically just to fill that box up with art, like finished pieces that I could put in an art show or make prints of or sell the originals, which I don't really want to do. But there's something about having like an end goal that you either hit it or you didn't hit it, and it's very simple. So for me, it's like I just have to finish a piece of paper with like a finished illustration on it, that when I'm done I can just put it in the box, and it's like one more win, I guess. And then, like I said before, then the process just becomes like digging into the creativity of the pieces themselves. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm feeling good. Right now I'm drawing this piece. It's like a creature with some floating islands in the background, some simple subject matter that is familiar and comfortable to me. And I'm trying to let myself like riff on ideas that I've used before and like draw things multiple times. Like maybe I'll do 5 pieces that are just a creature standing in a landscape. But you can go infinitely deep on any specific thing. Like some people spend their whole careers drawing portraits, and to me that's just like one thing someone could do, but you could dig into that forever, and there's just infinite like possibilities and beauty within that. So I think it's good to like find something that you like making and just enjoy just being in that space and not being afraid of making stuff over and over with the same subject matter or materials or whatever. So I feel like this video is pretty much over, and I feel like I got my ideas out, and this went much better than it did when I tried to record it on Sunday. So yeah, if you want to buy a print, just check out my shop. I'll put the link in the description, and hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.